Welcome to the Birds vs. Boys game day reaction show, Eagles edition. Aidan Powers here. Eagles win and nobody move. We might be good at football. There was a point in that game where I held my breath for 30 minutes thinking this could be another insane comeback going against Philadelphia sports. But alas, the Eagles do win. Before we get fully into it, remember to like and subscribe to the YouTube videos. We try to get these out as soon as the games go final for both the Eagles and the Cowboys. Cowboys one will obviously be coming later today as well. And another disclaimer this week, I'm sorry that I sound terrible. I do have bronchitis. My lungs have failed me, but the Eagles have not. Eagles put a 40 burger on the Saints back-to-back years where they will go all black uniforms, come out against the Saints and play some of their best football of the year. It was tremendous. It was another step of growth. I think I've used that word every single time we've done a show like this, but we'll get into reasons why. But let's kind of take this in chronological order with everything that happened and then break it down and what it means for the Eagles. So let's start here. Going into the week, we knew the Saints were going to be shorthanded. No Alvin Kamara, without both of their starting tackles, so the offensive line is a little bit depleted. On the outside, they weren't that strong to begin with because Michael Thomas is not only hurt, but doesn't even want to play for the team. All right. So what do you do against a team with a depleted offensive line and not a lot of weapons? You test them. You test them early and often, and you saw that right away on the first drive in the first quarter. The Eagles were bringing the blitz, and I even marked every single one down. First quarter, first drive, third down, corner blitz. They brought a bunch of people. The second quarter, there was a third and 6. They bring Alex Singleton on the delayed blitz right up the middle, unblocked, forces just a terrible pass from Trevor Siemian. It was like that all first half and really all day. They were the aggressor. They were disruptive, which has been the issue in the past where it's just been kind of, let's lay back. Let's let things not get out of hand. Don't allow the home run play. Instead, they were fast and furious, part 10. What I really liked from them the most was just the same thing as last week, is playing to your opponent's weaknesses. We knew that Teddy Bridgewater couldn't beat you over the top. We knew Trevor Siemian was probably the same way. And a lot of the quarterbacks left on the schedule, you're not really worried about them like you were Mahomes at the beginning of the season when you played him, or Dak, or Justin Herbert, or people like that. So what do? Bring some blitzes, bring some pressure, show some different looks, which is exactly what they did today. Instead of relying all on the front four, who did play well, but you brought linebackers. You even brought corner blitzes. Avonte Maddox, the new signing, like I said, right away in the first quarter. So that's what I love to see. They clearly disrupted Trevor Siemian. He had 2 picks in the first half. TJ Edwards had one right away, which really set the tone for this game and really got the Eagles going, so they could go in for their first score and just really kind of put their pedal to the metal on offense after that. But it really started with the defense today, and now things are really clicking on both sides of the balls, which is great. And then, obviously, to end the half, that was fantastic. Darius Slay, the pick 6. And what I liked, how about Mark Schlereth, the Philly step up? I kind of like that. I think we need to trademark that. Instead of the Lambeau leap, if you guys score a touchdown, just jump on top of the front row there for the VIP seats where Mike Trout sits. So that's kind of how the first half went. Jonathan Gannon in the sunglasses, the dad glasses. What a look, but I guess it works because it's been a lot better than what we've seen in the past. But what we saw in the first half is blitz, 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 pressure, pressure, pressure. Make them beat you because you don't trust the receivers and Trevor Siemian to do it. Their best weapon was honestly Mark Ingram, who is in reality their backup running back. That's what the Eagles did. Now, in the second half, you lose Darius Slay. Davion Taylor got hurt, so things changed up a little bit, and it got a little disruptive. But that's what we saw in the first half from the defense. On the offensive side of the ball, wow. Wow, wow, wow. There's just something so settling about watching the holes that the offensive line create. And it's something about the Saints, maybe because their defense is so good and you know that you're going against a great defense. It's just like, maybe it's because they wore the ski mask and they were constantly trying to humiliate us for some reason. I never really understood that beef between them and us. There was just constant back and forth, them saying they would have easily went to the Super Bowl and kicked their ass. They wore the ski masks in the locker room. So there's just something great, something just extra personal about it when you see those lanes that the offensive line was creating on the running plays for the Eagles. Jordan Mailata wasn't playing offensive line today because he wasn't blocking people. He was emasculating people. There was a time where he knocked Cam Jordan on his ass with one arm. He pancaked the guy so badly, and I believe it was Marcus Davenport. He can't pancaked him so badly that Davenport got up and tried to fight him, and that was all day for for Jordan Mailata there. He didn't play offensive line. He just emasculated people. It was like those videos where they put the titanium down and they just bring it down with the full force on different objects like a baseball or just other metals and stuff like that. And the force is so strong that it just absolutely obliterates whatever object. They bring that thing down and that compression just absolutely just annihilates it. That's what it was like watching the offensive line today. They created so many holes, and it was so easy for our guys to get through. They controlled the clock, and there was a timeout that the Eagles took, and the Saints would just look like just gassed. It was just, their lungs looked worse than mine right now with whatever bronchitis infection is going on in there. And it was like that for the entire first half, and then obviously in the second half we get a little rigid, and we'll get into that. So Jalen Hurts was a story all day. We'll talk about him in the first half, making plays with the legs, sometimes making him almost too many plays with his legs because it was like the Saints were waiting on him to run. But I thought they did a great job early of mixing it up between run and pass, which has been in the past few weeks the MO. The run setting up the pass because you have a young QB who you're still trying to develop as a thrower. So that's what you saw today. The run set up the pass. They got Dallas Goedert involved. They got Devontae Smith involved. It made the throws a little bit easier for Jalen Hurts. And they didn't throw it a whole ton, especially because they got up by so much that they didn't want to throw it. They were trying to run the clock. But it was that balance. It was that rhythm. It was that time of possession that really did them in and just really kind of took the wind out of the sails for the Saints early. Now, really the only thing that kept them in the first half, and this will lead us to the second half here, is the Miles Sanders fumble in which the Saints got the ball at a short field and scored. That was the only time that they scored in the first half there. Miles Sanders is back. He should not be the feature back. This should be a rotation between three guys, four if you count Jalen Hurts' legs. In the second half, Jordan Howard does get hurt. So I say this with an asterisk because I would like Jordan Howard to be a part of this rotational backfield, but if he is seriously injured, he will obviously not be. It just feels like Miles Sanders is always good for one back-breaking play and not in a good way, you know? So it's been like that his entire career with the Eagles. It was like that at Penn State when I would watch him. Again, in the second half, he went out of bounds, but in the first half, it was that fumble where you're up 14-0. The Saints had no business being in that game. They should have been lucky that it wasn't 34-0 going into the half. But the only thing that really kept them in that was that fumble. So, and there's evidence that this should be a rotational backfield. So Hurts goes 18 times for 69 yards on the ground, 16 for 94 from Sanders, which is great. Like, that's fine. 10 for 63 from Howard. Obviously, he goes out early. And then 6 for 16 from Boston Scott. So everyone did touch the ball. It's like they're like a fruit salad. Like, there's no bad option in the fruit salad. Every fruit is going to taste good. It's just which one are you going to pick out first as you're going through your fruit salad. So that was the good part for them. Now, second half, it started off well. They forced a turnover again for the third time that day with the Mark Ingram fumble. They get 2 field goals early. You're at 33-7. Everyone else would feel totally fine. We're from Philadelphia. We realize that these things happen. We are less than 6 months removed from blowing a 25-point lead in the fourth quarter of a basketball game. And we watched our bullpen in baseball blow 34 saves. No lead is safe. If it were 63-7, I'd be still sitting on the edge of my seat like I was watching the end of Avengers Endgame. But it did get a little bit closer, and that's where I want to take over. So obviously we get up 33-7. The Saints start to mount this comeback. It's 33-19. Where do we go from here? The offense has only had about 60 yards in the half. They look like they're sputtering. They got out of rhythm because they're trying to run clock. They're just trying to get out of the stadium there with a win at that point. And you're like, all right, they need a sustained drive. Where do they go to for this sustained drive so they can run some clock and get some points and get out of here with a win? For the first time in my life, I would like to say thank goodness for the existence of JJ Arcega-Whiteside as a member of the Philadelphia Eagles. First catch, first target all year. It's very ironic because earlier in the game, I saw him on the field and I was like, I wonder if the defense realizes when he's on the field, it means they're going to run the ball because all he can do is block and they never throw him the ball. Funny enough, JJ Arcega-Whiteside goes for 19 yards, and it was like everyone could just take this sigh of relief. It was like the anaconda that was constricting you was like, all right, I'm letting up, and you could get your breath back. You could just feel it enter back into your lungs. Everybody except for me, because I haven't had any breath in my lungs for about 5 days now. But metaphorically speaking, the breath came back into your lungs. 19 yards. You could just feel it in the stadium. It was the first thing that they'd had to cheer for in about like 20 to 25 minutes time. It got the ball out the midfield. They quickly gained 7 yards on the carry after with Miles Sanders, picked up a first down, and then all of a sudden they started to run 2-3 minutes off the clock. And you're like, all right, that is exactly what we needed. And I thought that was such an important drive, not just because, we were on the verge of an insane collapse, but because with young teams, closing games is the hardest part. If you remember early in the Sixers, when it was Brett Brown and the early years of Embiid and Simmons, before the era of Tobias Harris and Matisse Thybulle, and even all those guys were there, they were young, they'd get big leads, and they really wouldn't know how to finish games. They'd be so topsy-turvy and just like out of sync. But the Eagles, in the past few weeks, have been closing games. And that's what you really like to see. That's what they did today. Things got tough and they dug down deep, went on a great drive, got a touchdown out of that drive, and the third rushing touchdown for Jalen Hurts, and put the final nail in the coffin like they should do. The Saints are a pretty good team. They're not a great team. I wouldn't even call them a good team. They're clearly not the best team in their division, and they're a borderline playoff team, just like the Eagles. We'll talk about that. But those are the teams, just like the Broncos a week ago. They're a pretty good team, not a great team, definitely not a good team either, where you're like, all right, we just got to take over and close this game out. And that's exactly what they did. So I thought that was such an important drive for Jalen Hurts, for Nick Sirianni, that I can be confident in you to make the right play, make the game-winning play, make the game-winning call, stuff like that. It's important going forward because here we are at 5-6 in the hunt, not like in the graphic, like, oh yeah, everybody's in the hunt. No, 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 no. We are squarely in the hunt. We are Leonardo DiCaprio in that movie where he lived in the wild and fucked that bear in the hunt. That's how in the hunt we are at this point. Not like how mathematically the Bears haven't been eliminated from the playoffs. No, the Eagles are in the hunt. And so every game going forward is going to be like, all right, can you win this? Can you do this? Can you make the efforts that are going to take in fourth quarter of playoff games or games that are going to feel like playoff games so that you can get in? So today was a big step in that, playing a team that was right there with you with playoff hopes and playoff aspirations. And that's what it was great seeing at the end of the game there. Some other notes from the game, and then we'll get into the playoff picture. The extension guys. So Dallas Goedert got the extension, and he went 5 receptions for 62 yards. Did have 2 drops at the end. Gotta have those. But early on, he was the clear key target. I thought they were going to get him mixed in after the extension, and they did. And he had a great catch. I had no idea. He almost like caught it like he was holding an ice cream cone in the first half, which was pretty remarkable. 5 receptions, 62 yards for him. And then Avonte Maddox, we mentioned him on the blitz and everything like that, but he was good in coverage as well. So the extension guys played well. And then I talked about JJ Arcega-Whiteside. Honestly, when we bring him up, that's usually a bad thing because we're talking about busts. Speaking of that, guys whose name we usually don't bring up in a good light, Jalen Reagor. So I talked about Miles Sanders making plays where you're like, when he's around the ball, you hold your breath because you can't trust them because they always make backbreaking plays. Jalen Reagor usually is a guy where I'm like, I don't want to see you around the ball. Today on kickoff returns, if you notice, they were kicking it short because they wanted to put the ball in play and either get them behind the sticks, behind the 25, or force a fumble. Jalen Reagor did a good job of realizing what they were doing and getting himself down to the ground and not committing that back-breaking fumble that you saw Miles Sanders do. So commend the two guys that we never commend, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside and Jalen Reagor, playing smart football and playing winning football in the second half of an important game at home. First home win in 5 years. It was great to see, commending some people we don't often get to commend here. Now, let's do this because this is fun. This is the fun part, and I didn't get to think I would ever get to do this year. And it was clearly a rebuild year, or if you want to call it a transition year, which is like a fancy term for saying you sucked really bad and now don't have a lot of talent, and now you're trying to figure out how to get more talent. Transition year. That's like when the kids would 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 get held back in school, and I don't know if they said it in your schools. Like, yeah, they had 6 Fs last year. They're not in a gap year. They're dumb as shit. That's why they're still in 5th grade. It's not a gap year. There's nothing going on here except that they can't read. That's what this transition year is for the Eagles. But now might not feel like a transition year. This was a big game. Obviously, not only you needed the win, but now you hold a tiebreaker against the Saints team. Tough schedule going forward. They held the playoff position going into the day. Now the Vikings won. That sucked. Aaron Rodgers, how did you let that happen, man? Um, but there were some good losses around the NFC. So the Falcons lost on Thursday. They're still another team that's technically in the hunt here. But you own the tiebreaker over them. You own the tiebreaker over the Saints. And then the Panthers, who held the other playoff spot, they lost at home today to Washington. And the Eagles hold the tiebreaker over them thanks to that insane comeback earlier in the season. So they've done their damage against the NFC South. Big tiebreakers here against the Panthers and against the Saints. That'll matter a lot going forward. What you got to worry about now, you don't own the tiebreaker against the 49ers because you lost them earlier this year. They smoked the Jaguars today. So they're a team I'm really worried about because I just think they're playing good football now that they've got everybody healthy. Like now that they're not just throwing to Deebo Samuel every single time because that's the only weapon that they had. Now they have things figured out. I think they're going to be a really good team. And then obviously we mentioned it. Vikings win. That's a big win for them. 2 straight big wins. I think it's me betting against them is what's happening. So I'm done with that. But 2 straight big wins. They go on the road to the Chargers, beat them, and then at home against the 8-2 Packers, they get a win. Thanks to Justin Jefferson. That kid's pretty good. Must be nice. So those are the 2 teams you're keying in on as the team in the hunt. Like I said, Leonardo DiCaprio living out in the woods, fighting bears, everything like that. I think that's the movie he won his first Academy Award or Oscar. So we're in the hunt. We're like him. That's the mindset that we got to have. But those are the 2 teams I'm focused on. So we'll see about them going forward. Obviously, the Eagles aren't going to play the Vikings, and they've lost to the 49ers. So those are the 2. Those are the 2 that you're looking into. Coming up for the Eagles, we've talked about it. We've harped on it. Growth, 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 growth. They are firmly in that position where they have grown and matured and become better play callers, whether it's Jonathan Gannon, Nick Sirianni, and then Jalen Hurts has become better. And then just overall, this entire offense looks like a well-oiled machine. They looked a lot better than they were early this year. And the defense had probably their best performance of the year today, unless you count the Detroit Lions, which is hard to do because, it's like if you play a team that couldn't beat the UTSA undefeated team in college and the Lions, like, does that actually matter? Does it actually count? So today, I would qualify as, at least in the first half, the best half of football that we've seen them play this season. So, first win at home in 5 years, continue to grow, but 2 games coming up, very winnable. You go to MetLife twice, Giants, Jets coming up. Those teams, 2 teams with losing records. So, you take what you've learned and continue to grow. You had some mistakes there in the second half, but you learned from it. You bounce back. You commanded, you got the win. So let's build on this. Hopefully Jordan Howard is healthy. We saw what we have in Miles Sanders. Let's go to that rotational backfield. Let's continue to pound the run. We saw what the offensive line did to an incredible New Orleans Saints front seven, who's one of the best rush defenses in the league. Guess what? The New York Jets do not have one of the best rush defenses in the league. So you learn from this. Lean on your offensive line going forward. Believe in your defense that you can blitz now and that they won't give up the home run play. And let's go. We've got, I cannot believe this. We've got about like 6 games left. Let's make a playoff push. We'll be back on Wednesday. We'll be looking ahead to the week that is with the Cowboys and Eagles, and we may have another big interview. Like I said, please like and subscribe, and we will see you on Wednesday.
Chris Hansen here, and I'm going to need you all to take a seat right over there and check out Birds versus Boys.
I think you're completely right here, and I hate it.
Yep. Hey, idiots. Stop doing dumb things. I got 2 phones.
Upside alert. Upside alert.
I might go insane.
I think you're already there.
There's no hope. Hope is gone.
If this was an AFC North podcast, we'd be done in 15 minutes.
Bob Hope. I'm going to drink bleach.
That is the team you promised me you were going to be this year.
This is the Consciously Hopeful podcast.
I'll be watching.